Hey guys, so this is the van, and in this episode I just wanted to talk a little bit about why I ended up choosing the Iveco, how much I paid for it, where I got it from, and then also how I inspected it and decided that it was, the one. So here we go. The van is a 2007 Iveco Daily. It's a long wheelbase, high roof model. It's a 6-speed turbo diesel and it's got about 180,000 Ks on it. The main reason I went with the Iveco first up was the size. It's pretty much the biggest van you can get. I think this is the longest wheelbase model of any van out there really. A lot of people freak out when they look at bigger vans. They think they're not going to be able to drive them around town and everything. I don't really think that's the case. This is 7 meters long and I can just fit into a normal car spot. I can go into a normal outdoor shopping center fine. You don't freak out. It's pretty easy to drive around. Sort of just feels like driving a big car. It doesn't feel like driving a bus. The other thing about this van is the height. You can stand up completely straight inside, which is a game changer. I could not go back to a van I couldn't stand in. It's so annoying being like this all the time. I definitely recommend trying to get something a little bit bigger, a little bit longer. You're just gonna have so much more room and so many more options in your design layout. It's really good on fuel. It's a 6-speed turbo diesel and I'm getting around 10 liters per 100, which is just crazy good for a van of this size. It is empty at the moment, so that's obviously gonna change, but pretty happy with the fuel economy straight up. I've done a heap of research on the reliability and the parts. Now this is a European model, so obviously parts are gonna be more expensive. But they're meant to be pretty reliable. They only make bigger vans and trucks. A lot of the Winnebagos are built on this model, so that's a pretty good sign straight up if a massive manufacturer like that is using them. Why did I choose the Iveco over like a Sprinter or a Transit or a Crafter? I've looked into Ford Transits and I've heard really shitty reviews from heaps of mechanics. Pretty much every mechanic I've spoken to says just don't get one. They're tempting because they're really cheap compared to these ones, but I just don't think it's worth it. I've owned a Sprinter, I still own it actually. It's really good, but I just wanted to mix it up, get something a little different. I've never owned a VW Crafter, but I think they're built off a pretty similar base to the Sprinter, so they're gonna be pretty comparable, I think. Overall, I think the Iveco is gonna be more reliable than those other alternatives, but we'll just have to wait and see, I guess. Some cons about the Iveco. First up, it's not a Toyota, just get a Toyota if you can. Parts are way cheaper, servicing's way cheaper, they're easier to work on, they're just better cars really. If you're in a remote town and you break down in a Toyota, there's a good chance a local mechanic is gonna be able to fix it for you. They've probably worked on the same model before. Whereas if I break down in this somewhere remote, chances are I'm gonna have to get parts shipped in and it's just gonna be a nightmare. We've driven all the way around Australia twice, over 150,000 Ks in 2 different Toyotas, and not a single breakdown, so that's pretty crazy. Done all the maintenance myself because they're really easy to work on. So if you can, try and get a Toyota. The only reason I've moved away from Toyotas is simply because they don't make a van in this size. You've got the Hi-Ace, which is pretty small, a Commuter, which is a bit bigger, but you still can't stand up in it. And then it jumps up to a Coaster, which is a fucking bus. So where I found this one on Facebook Marketplace. This is the actual ad right here. It just came up in my suggested sort of searches. I've got some saved searches there. And it had only come up like a few hours ago. It was a good price. All the photos looked good. No dents or anything like that. There was this weird paint discoloration up here, but wasn't too concerned. I really like Facebook Marketplace because you can sort of stalk the person before, which is pretty important. Have a look, see if they're a real person and all that sort of thing. And it's just so quick and easy. Like I just flicked this guy a message straight away. He got back to me straight away. It's just easy rather than using like car sales or eBay where you're trying to email people and all that sort of thing. Gumtree's good as well and Craigslist, but Facebook Marketplace is just so easy. So that's where I look these days. How to inspect the van. I'm just gonna give you a super basic rundown of how I inspected this one. The idea here is just to determine if it's worth paying a mechanic to come and check it out for you. There's no point paying a mechanic to go and check out 5 vans if they're all shit. When you go to inspect the van, try to do it in daylight, obviously, so you can see but also so it's, you know, a bit less dangerous. You're not meeting up with some random at night. Try do it in the morning if you can, just so the van probably hasn't been started then. It's good to check it when it's cold. When you go to inspect it, bring a torch. That is so you can check under it and check for oil leaks. Bring a rag, you're gonna get filthy. Wear really nice clothes so you make a good impression on them. Gloves would probably be a good idea, but I don't think you can even buy gloves anymore. And then one of these bad boys will be pretty handy. It's a code scanner. You're probably not gonna have one just laying around, but try borrow one off your mate or your mechanic, because it's just gonna make it way easier. You're gonna be able to look for things that you can't see with the naked eye, and you could find a hidden problem. The thing you wanna do when you get there is just have a really good look at the outside of the van. So do a big loop, walk around the whole thing. And what you're looking for here mainly is any rust. So to have a really good look, like everywhere for rust. Check the doors open and close, make sure they lock, that's really important. Look under all the wheel arches, check out the tires. Oh look, there's some rust. I didn't notice that before. And it's not too bad, it's just in the skin. It's not structural at all. Try and check if the tires are worn evenly. Even every dent you find and everything like that, you can just use to bring the price down. So just say, look, there's a dent here. You know, that looks shit, bring the price down for me. So after you've walked around the entire van, looking everywhere for any dents, scratches, rust, be really thorough with the rust. Rust can be a massive problem. So after you've done all that, it's time to go inside and pop the hood. Most cars, it's down here. So first up, check all the hoses. Check for any splits or tears or holes or anything like that. Just check all the connections are nice and tight. These hoses all look really nice and new, all the hose clamps look good. Check the oil. I'm not gonna check it now because I've only got one hand. And then get your torch and have a really good look all down here for any oil leaks, any diesel leaks or fuel leaks. Make sure you have a really thorough look. And I did notice a leak around the turbo in this one. Not sure if you can see it. So it's right down there where the torch is. And I noticed that straight away. It looks pretty minor. So this is why you wore your shitty clothes, because you're gonna get filthy down here. But you gotta climb under and try and have a really good look for any more oil leaks. Another thing to watch out for is a really clean engine. That just means that they've given it a really good clean under here, probably to hide an oil leak from you. So while you're under here, try and look for any rust at all, like look everywhere. Any screw holes or anything, look for rust everywhere underneath, because there could be some hidden down here. This looks completely rust-free, which is a relief. Have a look at the diff, which is that big metal thing in the middle. Now I did notice a little bit of an oil leak here. I'll probably just do a diff fluid change and monitor that. It's not really gonna be a massive concern. It all looks pretty good down here, really. So now it's time for the fun part, the test drive. The main things you wanna look for here is smoke on startup. You wanna check out all the gears. You wanna check the steering's nice and smooth and the braking's nice and smooth. So just focus on those ones and see how you go. Try and have a friend watch for any smoke from the exhaust. Give it a little bit of a rev, don't go too crazy. And this one looks pretty good, no smoke coming out. If it's pissing out a heap of black smoke, probably not a good sign. Before you start, check all your lights work, headlights, indicators, your brake lights work, your reverse lights work. You have to check all that before you go for a test drive, so you don't get pulled over by a cop or have an accident that's gonna be your fault. When you go for your test drive, you're most likely gonna have the seller sitting in the front seat next to you. Don't let them distract you. They can often talk shit to try and purposely distract you, or they might just be being friendly, but don't be scared to say, look man, can I just try and listen to the engine for a second? Don't just have a good old chat and then forget to actually check anything out. So the first thing you wanna check is just the steering. So do some big, slow, full lock turns. Go both left and right. So you're listening for any weird whining noises, crunching noises, grinding noises, pretty much anything that sounds like it shouldn't be happening. Try to get up to a pretty good speed because you want to check all the gears. It'd be awesome if you could get right up to like 80 k's an hour, get it on a highway or something to give it a proper test. It goes into gear really easily, you're not forcing it into a gear, but all these gears are nice and quiet. They're not making any humming noises or like squealing noises in any gear. All gears are good. Make sure you check out reverse gear as well, obviously. So it's really important to check the engine under a load. So try go up a steep hill or just do an overtake. Make sure you warn the seller before so he doesn't think you're a dickhead. That's when most of the problems are going to present themselves under a load. So give it some gas. So nice smooth acceleration, all looks good there. Now you want to test the brakes up next. You want to come do like a slow halt first, just lightly apply some pressure on the brakes. So you're just listening for any screeching or squealing. And then you want to come to a bit more of an abrupt halt. Make sure you tell the dude again. So just gonna sort of slam the brakes on. Shit. So that was nice and solid braking. It wasn't soft or spongy or anything like that. What is this guy doing? A good way to check out the clutch is just to go nice and slow, like 20, 30 Ks an hour, and drop it down into 5th gear. Put your foot all the way down the accelerator, and the revs shouldn't climb at all. You should almost sort of stall, and that just means that the clutch isn't slipping. And yeah, that's pretty much it. Like, it drives really well, nice and quiet, no weird noises. The turbo works, everything seems to work. So now you pretty much just want to head back to where you started and then leave the engine running and go and recheck some of those leaks again and see if there's any new leaks. And that's just a super basic way to test drive a van. Obviously, I ended up really liking the van because I bought it. I had a mechanic come and check it out the next day. He was really happy with it, couldn't find any problems. So for the price of the van, it was up for like 13 grand, which is more money than I've ever spent on anything in my life. Twice as much money as I've ever spent on anything. I managed to get him down a little bit. I'm not going to tell you exactly how much I paid. Try and guess in the comments, and I'll tell you next week exactly how much I paid. I find the best way to get the price down is to list all the problems that you found on the van or your mechanic found. Try and pay cash, that always helps. Obviously, everyone loves cash. And also just try and make it really easy for them. Say, when's good for you? I can come out tomorrow, I'll take it off your hands, I'll pick it up. Try and make it happen quickly because the seller probably just wants it gone. How much do you want for it if I get it right now? Before you give over any cash at all, make sure you do a revs check or a car history report, and that just tells you if it's been stolen or ridden off or if the odometer's been fucked with or anything like that. So do that before you give any money, make sure you do it. The other one is insurance. Definitely get at least third party before you drive it anywhere. And make sure you choose a van that's suited to what you actually want to use it for. Don't just pick any random one. The next episode is going to be all about the design process. So I'm going to walk you through how I use SketchUp to just roughly come up with ideas for the van. I'm not really set on a design yet, so I'll show you a couple of ideas I've got and see what you guys think. There's heaps of things in this Sprinter that I absolutely love and really want to incorporate into the Iveco. So I'll walk you through a couple of those things as well. So that's going to be up in a few days, and yeah, make sure you comment and subscribe and all that shit, apparently. I think it's time for a beer.